back to my channel. This video is going to be all about the story or timeline of my chronic illness. This is part 2. If you haven't already seen part 1, click up here. You probably need to watch that one before you watch this one for them to make sense. If you enjoy the video, make sure to like it and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and subscribe to my channel for more videos every Sunday. So the next year is year 12, which is the first year of sixth form. The A-levels I had chosen to do were psychology, sociology, and art textiles, I believe. It quickly became clear that there was no way I could do an art subject. It was just too much work. So instead of that art class, I picked up English language. And I wasn't in that class for very long before we worked out that 3 A-levels was just too much for me to handle. I just couldn't do it. So I dropped down to 2 at Christmas and spent the rest of the year just doing 2. Year 12 is categorized in my head as the worst year of my life. It was the lowest point of my chronic illness. Every day I was worse than the day before. Every day I just got worse and worse and worse until I literally couldn't do anything, and I hated it. I developed quite severe depression in this time and quite a lot of anxiety. It was awful. I barely spoke to my friends. I wasn't at school much. Break times, lunch times, I was never there. I was at home. I was at school for maybe 2 hours a day, and it was hell. I used to cry in the car on the way to school every single day, and I would just cry and say, "Don't make me go." And I completely agree with her reasoning, which was that if I stopped going to school, I might never get out of bed again. Like, if I didn't have that reason, there would be no chance I would be getting out of bed because it was so difficult. Though it was hell. I cannot be proud of myself that I made it through that school year, and we both came to the conclusion that this horror was the only thing that was keeping me from becoming bedridden, and I don't know how we avoided it, honestly. I don't know how I carried on. I'm incredibly proud of myself and the fact that I continued to try at life through that. Is 100,000,000% my best achievement. I came out of that year with 2 C's at AS level. I remember opening up that packet and seeing those 2 C's at AS level. I crumpled on the ground and I cried. The pain was worth it, and I'd done it. I don't know how I did it. It shouldn't have been possible, but I don't know. And I cried all the way home, just hysterical. It was over. And it wasn't over because I still had another year of sixth form to do. Those grades, I don't know why they matter so much. Because really what I'm proud of is I got there, not even the grades I got, but they meant so much to me. I put myself through hell every day, and that was my reward. It was. Oh, I need to stop crying. And then in September, school started up again for year 13. So I was continuing the 2 A-levels I'd already been working on. It wasn't as bad that year. It was still hard, and I still cried quite a lot, and I was still struggling with my depression and my anxiety. But I could talk to people again, and the world just seems a little bit brighter. All throughout this time since my diagnosis, I had been doing what is called graded exercise therapy, which is where you do a small amount of exercise and you increase it until you have the stamina to be able to do what regular people can do. That was another thing that was hell. Do not do graded exercise therapy when you are at your worst, when just living is a nightmare. It will make you want to die. And my poor mum was just trying to get me to do it because that's what the doctors told her would help me. But it was hell. We used to go on walks. which meant I used to walk 10 metres crying, and then we used to turn around and walk 10 metres back, and then I'd lie down. In year 13, I turned 18 years old and had my 18th birthday party, which was significantly better than my 17th birthday party, where I just felt like I was dying. My 17th birthday really showed me the difference in my health from 16 to 17, and I could really measure how much worse I was. By the time I was 18, I could really see the difference and the improvement from my 17th birthday. So though I was still very much in the midst of the illness, I could see improvement, which really helped me in my mental state. Year 13 really wasn't that notable for me, just because not much happened, though it wasn't the worst year of my health. I was still too sick to really do anything. It is the year I started drinking alcohol and going to house parties very infrequently. I could only go to a party and stay for a couple of hours before I'd be completely exhausted and would have to go home. So not many stories there. At the end of year 13, we had another prom. This prom was less formal, and because lots of us were 18 years of age, we were allowed to drink at the prom, which meant it was a lot more fun, obviously. The prom itself was a lot of fun, but again, just like the year 11 prom, after the prom was over, most people went to a club in our town. Because of my health, I couldn't do that. I had to go home and go to bed. So on results day, we all went out and celebrated. We went out to a club, which was the first time I'd ever been clubbing. I knew I didn't have anything coming up and I would pay the consequences. It was a great experience, though I was in a lot of pain and I really felt quite awful. But it was slightly bittersweet, because after year 13, the next stage is quite often university, and I wasn't well enough to go. And my whole friend group was. Everyone I knew, everyone I'd been friends with for years, moved away. I felt like I'd lost something all over again. I'd been slowly regaining and being able to do more things, and then when they left, I really felt the difference between us. And it was hard. It was really hard to be left behind. And not because I'd chosen to. I didn't choose not to. I couldn't. I did a third year. The third A-level I decided to do was government and politics, and I went back to school and was in a year group with people I had never met. I did meet some really lovely people in that time, but it's not the same as having my school friends I'd known for 7 years. That year I had another year 13 prom. If you're counting, that's 3 proms. I'm not entirely sure why I went, but realistically what I was trying to do was have a do-over, do my year 13 prom again, but do it right. Now that I was healthier, you can't do something like that over, because the people make the event. And though there were lots of lovely people at that prom, they weren't my year group. So I went to a prom knowing less than 10% of the people that were going to be there. Whereas the year before I knew everyone. Being there, I thought it would make me feel better, like look how far I've come, but it made me feel lonely. And I spent the night with some lovely people, but I couldn't help, again, feeling heartbroken that I couldn't recreate my year 13 prom. My real one. So at the end of that year, I now had 3 A-levels, and I had applied to university, and I had been accepted to the University of Bath, except I wasn't well enough to go to university. Again. So, for the second time, every friend I'd made left, and it hurt all over again. And this time I wasn't going to school every day, so I didn't meet new people. This year is what I'm going to call my gap year. Though I didn't really do much of the gap year activities, my gap year was lonely. I had a part-time job for 3 months, which wiped me out. I worked very hard at that job, and my best was never good enough because I simply didn't have the energy to keep going for the amount of hours that were needed. Other than working, I would be resting at home. I decided that I had to leave the job in order to progress with my illness. Though I was making money, I wasn't progressing in my illness just because I was exhausting myself so much. So I quit. The overarching theme of that year was that I was lonely. I did start dating a boy who was very nice. The only times I would really leave the house were to go and see him. I wasn't the best person to date because I was quite low on energy. We didn't really do much. That was kind of the only thing I had going on in my life at that point, and it really made a difference to my mental health to be able to go somewhere and speak to someone. It made a big difference to me, and I don't know whether I ever mentioned that, but it did. That year came and went, and I didn't do much. That year I dedicated to working on my fitness and really trying to build up skills that I would need when I went to university. So gaining independence, cooking and things like that I had missed because I'd been so dependent, so that when I went to university I would be able to look after myself. That was my goal anyway. So the final year in this story or timeline is my first year at university. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like it and comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Also subscribe to make sure you see more content from me every Sunday. Bye bye!